Welcome back to PM Live with the Trigger. Once again, 2:30 instead of 2 o'clock. Take number two, by the way, to be totally transparent. We are talking about editing today. And what happened earlier would be a prime example of something you need to edit out of your material. And we're going to get back into it once again. So, for those of us who started earlier and I had no audio, we apologize. We were cleaning. We were doing some work around the studio and all the buttons got shoved down. Everything did not get reset. So we are back once again. And again, if you're streaming along, come and join us, ask questions, and we will see what the conversation rolls out from here on. But we are talking about pro tips today for editing your TV shows, editing your podcasts, because editing is so important. And if you've been around Rock the Stage very long, you know I love doing lives. I've done lives most of my professional broadcast career, sports play-by-play, talk show interviews, but there is a part of editing that comes into everything you do, because a lot of shows, even if you do them live, they get re-pushed back out and you represent them again and again, or many are pre-recording their podcast show, their streaming shows. So I'm going to give you some pro tips to help you improve your editing skills, because editing is one of those things that consumes time, and we never have enough time in a day. You never have enough time to get things done. So I'm going to help you here with a couple quick little points to help you elevate, improve, and maybe gain some time back in the process with editing. Now, this works for both audio podcasts, works for video as well, for your video streaming content. Number one is take notes when you are doing your interviews. If you're doing your interviews and you have a little notepad by you, then just casually have a pen in your hand and off camera, write down what time it was. Just have the time reference. Put the timestamp down there. Like right now, it's 2:12. We're just a little bit into this. So at 2:12, if I had something that I wanted to edit out, I just write it on the notepad. Now, the thing about this is you can write really big, really small. It doesn't matter. No one's ever going to see your notes. Now, if you'd have a producer with you, a co-host or somebody, have them do that job for you. This is not something you as the primary host want to do all the time. You want to be able to focus here, take care of your talent, like we talk about a lot. You want to help them shine and shine, but you need someone to really write down what those little timestamps are. Even better, if you do have a producer, have them write down what it was. What was the comment? What was the phrase? Because eventually you're going to have to cut something out and cut something back in and bring them back together. And it's going to have to be as smooth as you can possibly be. Now, there's a lot of ways to get around that smoothness with a fader, a transition. I'm going to give you some other little tips here as well. But you do want to keep track of the conversation in real time. Number two, in your warm up, in your backstage, in the green room, whatever you call that time, and before you go live and roll, what you want to do is make sure your guest understands the rules or the best practices that you'd like to have your shows be. Since we are pre-recording more and more at Rock the Stage and still doing a ton of live, like you see right here today, there is that point of saying, by the way, we are pre-recording today. Feel totally comfortable if you're given an answer and it's not going the way you want, if you got a frog in your throat, if a kid just screamed in the background, whatever it is. Let them know they can call timeout, and they can then say, you know what, let me do that again. And it's really important they get to do it again. But then you also have to take note of what is the sentence before you cut. You have to have that same flow. You want to have that same style of give and take in there. And that's really, really important, that you don't lose the continuity of your message. So again, just like the timestamp, you're going to want to remember what you said, how you came out of it, and how you roll back into it as close as you can. Because again, you're going to cut off that midsection that did not happen. We were recording yesterday, getting ready for this week's episode of Rock the Stage Show. We had a major gap in the middle, and water. Anyone got water? Anybody got water? And we took a break, took care of that, but we had to cut some stuff out because of how the conversation went. My goal is to always make my guests look good. I want them to always shine on camera, shine on stage, and elevate them and their brand authority. But that means I want to be able to make sure we can pause, we can stop, we can make edits. So, really important as you run your shows, be able to do that for them and tell them in advance. Number three is look for the areas where they're repeating, repeating, repeating. That's another one that your producer, your co host can take notes on. We all get into a conversation, we get excited, and we don't realize maybe what story we told. Sometimes we're not too experienced in this, and we repeat the same information too many times. What you want to do then is you want to actually write a note down that at 10:14 repeated the story about the bicycle. And you're gonna have to decide which story of the bicycle you want to use. Where does it have the better impact? And you hopefully will keep one of them in there because it may be an important story to your guests. Again, you want to make them shine. So you got to figure out which one of those you drop out. Now, one thing when people get stuck and they repeat and go and ah and they get stuck on their words, some people get nervous and the stutter kicks in for no reason other than they know they're on camera. Do not edit out every one of the ums and ahs, whatever. There's a point of authentic. There's a point where you lose and it feels natural by editing out every little duh. And I know a lot of people that try to do that. They're really, really nervous about cutting all that out because they want to be perfect. Let me tell you a secret. Perfect doesn't grab people. In an interview, it needs to be a little organic. It needs to be a little rough. It needs to feel like it just was part of the conversation. Part of our preparation more and more as we work with our people is we tell them it's like sitting out back, having a conversation on the back lawn. You're having a drink, and it's a casual conversation. I want it to be that type of a discussion, that type of an interview. I want it to be a very laid back, intimate, and personal type of thing. You need to tell them that so then it's easier to edit out the things you want to edit out, but allow for the ums and the ahs, allow for those break points. Finally, one big secret here for when you do edit, when you get into trying to bring the pieces back together, you will see things that, things jumped over here, things jumped over here. Sometimes you take the wrong cut and their jacket got moved or the water drink got moved. And it's a very clear edit that you wanted to hide. Here's a great way to do that. Use B-roll. Now, B-roll is backup roll. It's other production video that you did not use in the interview, but when you go back to edit it in post-production, you can literally have the video rolling here, and then you have a bad break. You cut, and they just don't match up. On top of that piece right here, you want to put a piece on top of it so it bridges the gap between the two. So as we're doing the interviews, often we'll use stock footage or we'll use a real clip from a movie, TV show, some other part of the interview. If we've had them on before, we'll drop that in and it will show other action, but the conversation keeps going underneath it because the audio will match up pretty quickly. The video is tougher when you do editing. Watch for TVs and movies. Watch for how they do it on interview shows. They'll often use a cutaway, drop in some B-roll, and come back to the set. You do not see that quick cut. You do not see that jump. And that's a marvelous way to also enhance your shows. You can enhance your shows by having that. Also, if you're doing audio, and if there is a big audio gap too, if they joked about something, do a quick soundbite, do something blowing up. If it was a good laugh, have a good laugh track in there for just a second to break that continuity up. There's a lot of ways to be creative without taking away from the show and keeping it authentic and keeping it real. Those are just some tips on helping you have some professional tips here to help you elevate your show, whether it's a podcast, audio podcast, streaming TV show. Editing is so important. And of course, now in the modern age, more and more, we're seeing crazy edits that keep the energy going. Editing and pacing. That's what you hear a lot of directors and producers talk about. There's a pace to your show. There's an energy to your show. Your editing wants to keep the energy you want to have. Often, you'll even have pieces pulled out where it was a calmer part of the show, and you had a lot of energy at the beginning, but you need to break up the energy. It was almost too much. Sometimes you lift that out, edit that, put it into a different place where it fits the conversation and makes that roller coaster adventure of a very interesting conversation. Learn about editing, learn how to enhance your productions, make them better, keep it real, keep it authentic. By the way, tomorrow night we do have another edition of Rock the Stage Show, and we are going to go in depth with a professional stuntman. We're going to be talking to him about his career. He's seen, but he's not seen. He gets shot at, he gets chased at, he gets blown up, and he's often the coolest guy on the screen, but it's not the real guy on the screen. We're going to have a great conversation tomorrow night. And you want to join us 7 p.m. Eastern time on YouTube when we premiere the episode. Hit the QR code, join us, hit the little bell, by the way, by the episode, and you will get a little reminder 2 minutes before the show premieres. The show is a prime example of some editing. We did some fun. We had some stock footage. We had material right out of the films that Alan has been in. So come and join us for an enhanced Rock the Stage show, edited, and it's going to be a great, great conversation. Take some of your learning, bring it all together. Join us tomorrow night, 7 o'clock Eastern time for Rock the Stage show. Now, always on YouTube every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Hey, that's going to do it for today. Trigger Rich Bontrager. Again, apologies for the no audio at 2 o'clock, but that's what we do. We edit, we adapt, and you come back and go do it again. We'll be back here again for another edition of 2 p.m. with the Trigger. We'll see you next